Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back for yet again another video. Today's video I want to talk about final thoughts for Superman Lois. It's been about a week almost since the finale. I've had time to digest it, time to think about it, and just think about the impact that the show left on the CW, left on the legacy of Superman, left on the memory, I guess, of the superhero universe within the CW. And I gotta say, I mean, from beginning to end, this show did not pull any punches. It did not lack in story. It did not lack in progression. Sure, there were shakeups a little bit with recasting for certain characters, but sometimes that kind of thing is just, it's unavoidable with the way that's Hollywood works. Sometimes things just happen where people don't want to be a part of something anymore. Something comes up where they just need to take care of themselves, and that was the case with Jordan Elsass, who was the original actor for Jonathan, who decided to step away from, I think, acting altogether. I don't know if he's really done much since he decided to leave the show, but he decided to leave to take care of himself. And as a result, we did get someone come in, Michael Bishop, who did a good job. I really enjoyed his take on Jonathan. It didn't really seem like it lost much in the way of the impact that the character made and everything, and his progression and his dedication to that character. But aside from that, this Superman that we got from Tyler Hoechlin, as I had mentioned in previous videos, I was not sure that he would be a good pick for this character. I was not sure that he could be up to the task of playing Superman based on everything that we'd seen from previous actors who had done Superman, or in Tom Welling's case, being just Clark Kent, being this awkward kid growing up to be Superman. But when Tyler Hoechlin came in, he was, of course, kind of backdoored there within the Supergirl series and within the Arrowverse and everything, and it did end up being a completely different Superman than what we were left with after all of it. And he just did it in a way, in my opinion, where he separated himself, whereas the Supermen that we'd seen previously in the past, they were just heroes, straightforward. They were disconnected from the rest of the world. They didn't really have a whole lot going on with them. They were alone. They all might have had Lois Lane at some point or another, or some other woman, or just some other sense of being, I guess. But with Tyler Hoechlin coming in, playing a Superman who is a father and a husband, we got to see a completely different side of Superman. We got to see a completely different side of who he could be. And that was something I really appreciated with this character and with the way that they wrote him. And just seeing Clark being this humble, down-to-earth guy, no pun intended, but just seeing him be this guy who was completely different. He was connected. He come back home after, unfortunately, the tragic death of his mother, but he reconnected with this town that he grew up in. He showed how close he was to these people, even though he'd been gone forever, and reconnecting with old flames/friends, in the case of Lana Lang, and just developing these friendships that he might not have had in the past with the sense of her husband/ex-husband, Kyle, where he was known as being kind of a jock, kind of a dick back in high school, and them developing this relationship, developing this friendship, and it just being probably one of the longer lasting friendships that we saw, in the case that we did see them actually still being friends in the flash forwards that we got in the finale. So it was just a Superman unlike we had ever seen before. We had seen always the disconnected kind of loner type of Superman, and the awkward type of teenager that we got for Clark Kent/Tom Welling in his version of Superman, playing the part of Clark within Smallville, which is funny because, as I had mentioned in previous videos, Smallville launched it all. It started way back without realizing what it was starting. It started way back in 2001. I mean, I was still in high school at that point, and they'd come up with this concept. We had seen different variations of Superman over the years. We'd seen movies, we'd seen other kind of shows there in the 80s and 90s, but we had never really seen Clark Kent as a teenager growing up, experiencing the things that he was going through, discovering his abilities, how he came to train himself to use them, and the different villains he would come across. There was the very much trend of Freak of the Week there for quite a while. Then we would get season-long arcs and things like that. But also with that show, they managed to accomplish bringing in someone to play a version of Lex Luthor that we'd never seen. Michael Rosenbaum, who is one of my favorite Lex Luthors, if not my favorite, come in to play another version of Lex that we had never seen, where him and Clark actually had a friendship at one point, where we know that Clark and Lex are lifelong enemies after he takes up the mantle of Superman and everything like that. Whereas with this, we saw something that was completely unlike anything we had ever seen before. And after that show ended, we got the Arrowverse, or just Arrow, where that was another show, I think, where they didn't realize what they were starting, the fire that they were starting with a superhero universe on network TV, where it just managed to accomplish something that a lot of shows to this day still can't accomplish. It spawned The Flash and then Legends of Tomorrow and so on, where it spawned this entire universe where these shows would cross universe or do crossovers, where they would be a part of each other's shows, do whole crossover events that were unlike anything we'd ever seen before within a superhero genre, where a lot of these shows that would come along in the past on different networks that weren't known for this type of programming, where they would just fail because they were poorly written, they were poorly executed, they did not have the right people for the parts, and just things like that. So with this, it just did something that we had never seen before, and it's just started a trend, and it became wildly popular, and it did something, in my opinion, probably the opinion of a lot of people, that the movies just were incapable of doing. People want to rave about how the Snyderverse was so good. If it was so good, why didn't it last? Why didn't it get the chance that it needed to properly set the tone and set the story and everything? Well, I'm sad to say, aside from the Snyder Cut of Justice League, that was a poorly executed way of going about introducing these characters. It just was not done well. The tone was a little bit too dark, but I mean, you want to have kind of a basis of realism within this type of stuff, but they just couldn't do it right, and people lost faith in it. And of course, a lot of it had to do, I think, too, with the fact that the original vision that Snyder had did not really come to pass and didn't reach the main audience or whatever when it was released in theaters, because he had to depart the production of Justice League due to a tragedy in the family. Joss Whedon come in, and it was just a completely different vision, and it just crashed and burned from there. People had nothing but bad things to say about it. It was pretty bad in my opinion, but it was just something that just did not work with the movie universe. Whereas with the TV universe, it's really, I mean, yes, you had shows that were kind of bad. I mean, Batwoman did not strike me as a show that did too great, but of course we did also have a change up of cast where the main lead departed after the first season because she got hurt, and they just didn't really, I guess, respect her on set as far as dealing with that injury and everything. So she, withdrew from the show, and they kind of wrote out her character, and then they brought in this other woman. It lasted another couple seasons, and then it was done. And they did kind of get her to finish her story anyways within The Flash. But as far as that one and Gotham Knights, that was the only other show that just failed. That one just, I don't think that was technically part of the Arrowverse anyways, but it was a god-awful show. But aside from that, I mean, we had all of these characters come in, do these crossovers, do these cross-universe shows and stories where they all just interlaced and connected, and then it all ties it up with how Superman was brought in to do his own show, and then they kind of severed that link where Superman and Lois had nothing to do with the Arrowverse, which in some cases probably did it a lot of good. Where there was a lot of things that were very weird and awkward about the Arrowverse, or just certain stories didn't work, or certain characters didn't work, or whatever, but as a whole, it was still a success. But Superman and Lois came in, and it was a different tone, and the things that Tyler Hoechlin was bringing to Clark Kent versus kind of what we saw within Supergirl and the Arrowverse and everything, it was a little bit different. And then also just, it felt like it kind of matured up once he became a father, and once that story was put in place, and he had these two kids that would potentially be also super enabled as they got older. And it just took it in a place that it absolutely worked. It worked on every level as far as production, acting, storytelling, and just bringing a different type of Superman story that we had never seen before. And kind of closing on that, I have nothing but good things to say about that show, and it's a real huge shame and disappointment that Tyler Hoechlin was not given a fair shake, whereas when they first started this show, they were told they were going to do potentially 7 seasons, and then everything got shaken up with James Gunn coming in and kind of laying down the law, CW being bought out by this company that wanted nothing to do with this type of programming, and just it all, the foundation of it came crumbling, and it just kind of destroyed any potential for the show to go on. So I'm really disappointed that it happened, but I'm glad that we did get to see this story closed out in a way that it didn't leave us hanging, and it was very emotional and very fulfilling. But then again, it also just left us wanting more with kind of telling the story of the boys. Could we kind of see a comeback? The actor who played Jordan, Alex Garfin, I think his name is, he has expressed interest in coming back and doing a spinoff, but whether or not it'll happen, we'll just have to wait and see. But anyways, guys, that is just my quick video discussing the beginning and ending of this superhero universe that we got for the last 20 plus years. And it's all come to a close, and just now things are going to be very different as far as where do we go for this type of programming. Yes, there's other things that are in the works with HBO Max and things like that, but just it will never be the same. And this era of television was just something that's, I don't think, can be recreated. And it's unfortunate that it's come to this, but they did it, and they did it well. So I am thankful for the time we got for these type of shows, and I guess we'll just have to go back and rewatch all of them. But if you enjoyed the video, you enjoyed my thoughts about Superman Lois, the Arrowverse, and just all of it in general, please leave a like, leave a comment. Of course, consider subscribing. I would really appreciate it, and I will see you later. So take care. Bye.